Islam,
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 Islam.
Islam.
We would first begin with the Moorish American prayer. Uh, Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Good evening, everyone. We're back for part 2 of What is a Community? And the reason that we're back doing part 2 is because it's a vast topic and, scratched the surface. Also, last week, not really technical difficulty, but we had the camera on selfie mode, so the flags appeared in a different direction. We are not American Moors, we're Moorish Americans. So, we just wanted to clear that up for anybody that thought it was any, misconception or confusion. And like we said, other people may fly. We're not harping on how people fly their flags, but this is the order of our, what we have been taught and what has been laid down to us.
That's right.
And we like to keep in line with that particular order.
Absolutely.
We had fun. I had fun last. Last Thursday.
Yeah, it was a good session.
Yeah, it was great.
That's right.
And we're not like most, if you will, Moorish scientists or Moorish Americans, where we are actually scholar practitioners.
Exactly.
So we're going to take the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's lessons and not only live them, but we're also going to apply them to real time and real life.
That's right.
Aspects. And like I said, we have formed the arm of the Moorish Science Temple of America, which is called the Moorish American Society of Maryland, which is definitely about community building. And also we would like to thank I think his brother Gibbs, Sheep Gibbs, and Sheep Pratchett Bay. They came out on Sunday and fellowship with us, and and this is what is about operational unity. So please feel free to reach out to us at www.nobledrewali.org, or you can reach us via our email, which is Moorish American Society of Moorish American Society MD at gmail.com.
Right.
You can reach us that way.
You can also reach us at moorishsensemedia at gmail.com as well, which is a new website for the Moorish Sense Media show as well.
Islam. Yeah, and also we're going to our Moorish American Society of Maryland website is actually under construction. So we were up and running at one time, but we had to just do some different things.
Gradual steps, right?
Because everything is a process.
That's right.
So some important points. You talked about a wheel and how the wheel has to be fine-tuned.
Exactly.
When you drive a car, eventually those wheels, they get worn.
Gotta get replaced.
Right.
That's right.
So what we are talking about is a system, and what we are talking about is systems have, if you will, they're called attrition, and it's another verbiage that is used. But what attrition means is that things constantly change.
That's right.
Or the turnover rate, if you will, is what attrition is, but there's another name for it, and we'll get back into that at a later date.
That's all right.
But with no further ado, let's talk about
So last week we covered, the concepts of community. Today we want tonight, this evening, for our listening and viewing audience, we also want to cover the concepts of community as well. And we always refer ourselves to the teachings and the lessons of the Prophet Noble Ali, because we are Moorish Americans. And when you look at the Prophet Noble Ali's works and teachings, last week we talked about a particular article that the Prophet Noble Ali published in the Moorish Guide, how the Prophet Noble Ali expounded on the fact that economic slavery was one of the biggest issues that our people were in well over 100 years ago. And now you look now, and we still see a lot of the same issues. But also, if you read the Prophet Noble Ali's Moorish Leaders Historical Message to America, which you can find in your Moorish literature if you have one, which was also published in the Moorish Guide, the Prophet Noble Ali actually gives you and I, those of us who are Moorish Americans, and even those who may not be cognizant that they or understand that they're Moorish Americans, he gives us the building blocks to actually developing a community, right? Also, before I get into that particular part, I had the opportunity to go out in the public today, Sheep, with my son. I want to give him honor. My son, brother Caleb Joyner, young Mo, 7 years, will be 7 in January, 6 years old. And also my brother, Joseph Wilson, he accompanied us as well. And we were out in the community here in Baltimore, just talking to the brothers and the sisters and just individuals in general, throughout all walks of life. And people were very interested in the fezzes that we've had on our heads. But they also were just interested in knowing about the Prophet Noble Ali. And some of them actually said, "You're Moorish Americans." And we say, "Yeah, that's right." So that's a good feeling, And my son, he at the end of it, he actually, was saying, "I like this. I want to go out more often." And these are those small steps, that gradual process is what it takes to actually build a community more. We have to be out in the public and actually look, not only look the part, but actually be the message that we bring. Right. So when we look at the Moorish Leaders Historical Message to America, right, the Prophet Noble Ali gives us the building blocks to create a community, but ultimately developing a nation. Often we hear that the Moorish Science Temple America or the Moorish nation, right? We exist and dwell in the Moorish nation here in North America, but it's a nation within a nation. But before you have a nation, you got to have first what? A community. You also got to deal with what? The individual itself. This is what the Prophet Noble Ali says, confirming myself to the Moorish literature and the Moorish Leaders Historical Message to America, right? The Prophet Noble Ali says this in the first paragraph. He says, "In connection with the aims, objects, and regulations of the Moorish Science Temple of America, I deem it proper to submit to you a brief statement of our organization, covering its inception, rise, and progress of the Mohammedan religion, which I hope will be satisfactory to you and the means of causing you at all times to adhere to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice in your relations with mankind in general. I further most anxiously hope this brief statement will help you to more clearly see the duty and wisdom of at all times upholding those fundamental principles which are desired for our civilization, of our prosperity, such as obedience to law, respect and loyalty to government, tolerance and unity." And I want to stop right there, because those right there are the fundamental principles desired for our civilization, our prosperity, but ultimately creating our community. Because the first thing we have to do is know how to obey the law. And the first law you have to obey is Moorish American, coming in as Moorish Americans, divine constitution bylaws, which was administered and handed down to us by the Prophet Noble Ali. It's not to be tampered with. It's not to be altered. But it's to be adhered to, and it's also to be reverenced, right? So, because it comes strictly from the great universal creator of love, who is Allah. Also, you are dealing with respect and loyalty to government. So what does this mean? This means that we're not sovereigns. This means that we don't go contrary to the rules and the regulations of the law, whether in our Moorish community or our Moorish society, but also abroad. Because guess what? We don't have the right to defile or to hurt or to do harm to another individual, and we definitely shouldn't do harm to ourselves as well. You also deal with respect and tolerance. Now, what does tolerance mean? Tolerance means having patience. having patience, listening with a keen ear, actually looking and examining what is being displayed in front of you before you take an objective view.
That's right.
Before you chastise or before you knock down the next man's point of view. And by next man, I'm talking about those who may or may not be Moorish Americans.
That's right.
We got to be able to come to our brothers and sisters, and by brothers and sisters, I'm talking about the human race, and actually meet them at a certain point.
That's right.
To bring them up, to elevate them. We can't bring the mountain down, so to speak, to elevate our people. Only way we can get to the mountain is to elevate ourselves.
That's
and
right.
Next point, the last point the Prophet Mohammed Ali demonstrates is unity. And what we demonstrate is operational unity.
That's
we
right.
might not agree always on the same thing. We might not even agree on the same topic. But if I can find some good in you, and you can find some good in me, it makes no difference what any man or woman may say.
That's right.
That's right.
And I like to give also some high esteem honor because I had the opportunity to see. I know for sure that he is a Grand Sheik out of Atlanta.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with the temple number, but I know he's Grand Sheik Haru Vanisi Il.
Praise Allah.
Who I've had the opportunity and pleasure actually to physically meet in person.
Correct.
And speak with him, via social media, if you will,
right.
email or what have you. But he was at a Nation of Islam temple.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah, and he did an excellent job with explaining the spirituality and how we shouldn't operate in a vacuum.
Praise Allah.
That speech, I don't know when he did or presentation when he did it.
Right.
And I'm making the assumption that it was in Atlanta.
Yeah.
But he did an excellent job with showing operational unity.
Correct. Exactly.
And also, with that point, the Prophet Noble Ali, I had the opportunity to meet when I first came into the temple.
Mm-hmm.
I had the opportunity to meet a grand governor.
Oh wow!
And Supreme Grand Sheik Clarence Prather Ill sent myself and some other Moorish Americans to Glassboro, New Jersey.
Okay.
At that time, this was like in 1999, maybe 2000, and at that time we were demonstrating operational unity. So when he sent us there, I met Grand Governor Ali Moore Ill, and at that particular time, there was a organization that might still be around, but the sister's name, Sister Sandra Weaver Beck.
Okay.
And she had like a communications network, and I had an opportunity to give a donation to the community, Moorish community network, but I'll get the exact name of the organization because she reprinted an article, and basically in this article it basically says that in succeeding years, Prophet Noble Ali established the national headquarters in Chicago. Later, in November 1926, incorporated a Moorish civic organization in the state of Illinois, a religious corporation known as the Moorish Science Temple of America. So 2 important points. It says civic.
That's right.
And it said also religious.
That's right.
So now we see that our civic duty is definitely connected to our religious duty.
Exactly.
Right? Which you talked about those fundamental principles, right. Which when we talk about something that's fundamental is very important. And now we see that we're supposed to do it civically and we are supposed to do it religiously.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So now we see that, hey, Prophet Noble Ali was not against he was not at odds with the government.
That's right.
So it goes on and it says, a religious corporation known as the Moorish Science Temple of America was registered with the Illinois Secretary of State in May of 1928. Now, this is in the Moorish Guide.
Right.
The Prophet Noble Ali at that particular time was the editor.
That's right.
And so I don't think that something would have slipped in there without him knowing or saying.
Exactly.
All right. So that's for all the naysayers and people, talking about the takeovers and all these other things, So then it goes on, it says organizational goals.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we talked about community, we talked about goals last year, right?
That's right.
So it says, the purpose and goals of the Moorish movement were articulated by Prophet Noble Drew Ali in the September 14th, 1928 edition of his weekly publication, The Moorish Guide, when he indicated that it was building on human needs to dispense charity,
that's right,
and provide for the mutual assistance of its members in times of distress, aid in the improvement of health, and encourage the ownership of better homes, find employment for members, and teach those fundamental principles which are desired for our civilization, such as obedience to law, loyalty to government, tolerance, and unity. He further stated, we are friends and servants of humanity. We are dedicated to the purpose of elevating the moral,
that's right,
social, and economic status of our people. We have set to do this through a wide and comprehensive program embodying the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Okay? So now we see where there's a golden cord that runs through the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's works.
That's right.
Right? So he's not, he didn't leave, he left his footprints clearly cut. And this is why we're presenting and going to the different documents according to Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Not our own, such as the Moorish Guide, Divine Constitution and Bylaws, Quran, Questions for Moorish Americans, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Because we are, not only are we fundamentalists of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, right?
That's right.
We are demonstrating how we're supposed to understand and make application to it in real time in our lifetime.
Absolutely.
Right. So I wanted to bring that point out, right? Because in this article, this is where the Moorish American Society of Maryland got its ideas and established its goals to carry out these four main goals, which is assisting the Moorish Science Temple of America, if you will.
That's right. And when we look at that, and that was a very fascinating article, because when you look at it, it seems to me the Prophet Noble Drew Ali is actually taking a community assessment.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This is what we're doing. Because when you look at a community assessment, we want y'all to be very mindful of this, right? We, the Moorish Science Temple of America, we are a society.
That's right.
We are a community. We're a tight-knit community.
That's right.
We have our differences here and there, but ultimately we're a tight-knit community. In order to maintain a tight-knit community, however, a community needs assessment is definitely needed, right? So when you look at a community needs assessment, a community needs assessment or assessments are used to gather accurate information representative of the needs of a community.
That's
and you just mentioned some of those needs. A lot of those needs are still needs that we need today.
That's right.
Assessments are performed prior to taking action. So we're talking about what? The Moorish movement.
That's right.
And when we're talking about movement is perpetual. That means it's going to happen.
That's right.
That means that we're not stagnant at all, and we're not going to remain stagnated, right? So when we look at it, assessments are performed prior to taking action and usually determine current situations and identify issues of action, establishing or reestablishing the essential foundation of vital practical planning. And this is exactly what we are explaining to you what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali was doing during his time, and also what we not only intend to do, but we will do, and we are doing in this time, right?
That's right.
And when you look at the process of a community assessment, the process ultimately is invaluable because what it is a tool for including the public. So that means the general public, you talking about the community or the close-knit society and solving problems and developing goals.
That's right.
Real goals. Goals that are tangible, but also ones that may seem intangible to some.
Target, right?
Target goals. That's right. Target goals.
Right.
Exactly. So when we look at it, a needs assessment can be an important tool for the public in becoming involved and contributing to an outcome.
That's
and this is what we are to do as Moorish Americans, as Moorish scientists. We are to find a problem or issue, and we're to come up with an outcome and a solution. We're not supposed to harp on the same issue or come back to the same issue with the issue being unresolved. We're to find a resolution under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
Which brings me to the point where if we do an objective look over the past, we could say since the Prophet Noble Drew Ali transitioned in the physical form,
Okay.
you know, left here on Earth, when he left Earth, we can see that some of the existing conditions has had us stagnated as a movement, you know, and we're not going to harp on those particular things, but that's counterproductive. And in another show, because we didn't get a chance to pull that information, but it's some ways that, you know, will kill almost any organization.
Correct.
You know, and not that the organization will die.
No.
You understand? Because it was divinely prepared by Prophet Noble Ali, because it was revealed to him by Allah.
That's right.
Right. And as a result of that, you know, before any of us tear the Moorish Science Temple of America up,
Right.
it'll tear us up.
That's right.
You know, so with that, you know, when we talking about a community assessment, you know, people talking about building communities, you know, we talking about we need a real sound financial structure.
Correct.
You know, and it has to be done from a grassroots. We're not talking about going to hire a company outside of the Moorish Americans to do a community assessment on our community.
It's not conducive.
It's not conducive. And not only that, you know, they don't really know what our real needs are.
Absolutely.
And remember, this goes back to when we talk about esoteric and exoteric.
Right.
You know, and some people don't think that these things really apply to us, but or, you know, when we talking about an esoteric lesson, you know, we can learn things in real time if we are focusing on, you know, some of the esoteric things and developing ourselves, you know.
Right.
So just wanted to, you know, clear that up. Also we gave some statistics last week, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And I wanted to go. I said, let me, because I think the statistics that I gave for Howard County, it may have been maybe 2 or 3 years old, because when I pulled the median household income per capita, and we said that Howard County is also in District 7, along with what we said the household median income for the 7th district was approximately $60,000.
That's right.
Now the household median income for Howard County was approximately $111,000.
Wow.
Okay, so now 2 communities in the same district, and we're talking about double, right? Almost, maybe, well, we ain't gonna say 3 times, but definitely double of what it is in, you know, Baltimore City. 2 county, or 2 a city and a county that's located in Maryland.
What, like 20 minutes away?
About 20 minutes away, you know.
It's a stark contrast.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So you talking about, you know, per household, and per capita means person for person. But when we actually dealing with it, depending on a population, and when you dealing with statistics, you know, we talking about per capita, we talking about per 10,000. Something to that effect. My numbers might be off a little bit, but you know, I just wanted to bring that point out, because I thought it was 80, and come to find out it's much higher. You know,
wow.
Yeah. So you know, now we really see what we are dealing with, and you can't say that, oh, I'm gonna start a community, or I'm dealing with commerce, and without dealing with these assessments, you know, because at the end of the day, then you or not including other Moorish Americans, then what's happening is you operating in the vacuum.
You really cutting yourself short.
I mean, you know, because you don't have a mental clear picture of what's going on in the community that you're talking about, that you're building.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And when we look at the Prophet Noble Ali, you know, getting back to the literature, and we're talking about developing the community, right? The Prophet Noble Ali and the Sheikh said something very important. He said we have a civic duty, and we also have a religious duty.
That's right.
So when you look at it, the Prophet Noble Ali and the Moorish literature, the Prophet Noble Ali demonstrates and instructs you and I, right, to read carefully the doctrines of the Moorish Science Temple. And the doctrines that the Prophet Noble Ali stated, you know, he stated that it contains our hopes, our aims, our rules, and articles of religion. Every member should have a copy. So if you are in the Moorish Science Temple of America, or you are proclaimed Moorish American, you should be studying those fundamental truths that the Prophet Noble Ali bestowed to you and I from the great universal creator Allah.
That's right.
Right? And when you look at religion, right, because religious duty, it's religious duty. When you look at religion, religion comes from the word religio, which means respect for what is sacred, the obligation, or the bond between man and God. And we're here in the Moorish sides of America, we use the personal and proper name for Allah. Some of y'all not listening, your audience may use the word Jehovah, etc., but we use the name Allah. So when we're talking about what is sacred, you got to hold on to what is sacred, you to value what is sacred, and you get to be obligated to, to adhere to what is sacred as well.
That's right.
That's right.
And basically, when you're talking about religious or civic, you have to be educated.
Correct.
Right? And education is a process by which you are actively capable of manifesting what you are.
That's right.
You see?
Wow.
And education also involves being able to bring out of us a greater expression of that which is already in us.
That's right.
Because the root word to education is to educe.
That's
right. To bring out what's already in us.
Right.
And the Prophet Noble Ali was very well aware that, who we are and what we had in us, because somewhere he says that he came for the young and unborn. In 1913, when he came back to America after traveling all around the world, and whatever thoughts was being revealed to him led him to establish this great movement.
That's right.
And as a result, he provided us with an education. Absolutely. And he left literature for us.
That's right.
So as we more scientists,
that's right.
Ultimately scientists are educators as well,
mm-hmm.
right? And in order for an educator, because you work in the school system, right?
Yeah.
You had to go through some type of training in order to be able to go ahead and be able to stand in front of a group of students to teach.
Right.
Right. So let's talk about an educator is one whose duty is not only to impart knowledge to others, but also he or she has the task of developing the knowledge, skill, and the mind of the student and bring out the latent qualities which the student already possesses, preparing them to use the resources of their own minds to take control of their own lives.
Absolutely.
So now, it's different. This is totally different from what we hear in some of these people who trying to promote sovereignty.
Right,
exactly. It's totally different, because I don't think that that's a very educated approach.
Not at all.
I think it's just presenting a bunch of information to people.
Right.
Right. And
it's not even compiled.
It's not compiled.
Not at all.
And
it's not investigated.
You have people traveling and all around the world at the expense of talking about their obtaining information and feeding it to people.
Correct.
And it's much easier. Somewhere I read that truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah, that's right.
So in order to present fiction to someone, you have to present a little bit of truth.
Right, you want to mix it up.
And basically that's what draws the people in to get them to believe in the fiction.
Absolutely.
So now let's talk about what miseducation does, right?
Praise Allah. Let's do this.
Miseducation results from being trained rather than educated. So you have people going out, and unfortunately, here in Baltimore, we had a sister who, she lost her form.
Right.
And we know that, the officers ultimately, that they probably, they didn't do something right, and as a result, she lost her life.
That's right.
And, this was because somewhere along the line, she had received some miseducation.
Correct.
Possibly from online or ordering things through the mail.
Exactly.
That's unfortunate, but we had to bring that point out.
Definitely did.
And for those who don't understand, right, that it's common knowledge that the United States government is a corporation.
That's right.
But because our people had not read and been in touch with information for so long, where I'm drawing from is lawyers usually draw from this. And if you're not a lawyer and you haven't been trained,
You just gonna take it.
you're going to take it and run with it. Or if you have not read it before, then you think this is information that, because you've never heard it, you think that, United States government is a corporation, da da da. But from an annotated United States Constitution, when we look in a preamble, which the preamble states, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the preamble. So later on down in the preamble, here's some some footnotes, right? And one of the footnotes that I found very interesting was when it breaks. Well, it's a lot of stuff that we're going to have to revisit.
That's right.
Right? But it says the United States and of the United States and for the United States, this national government, the government of the United States, the American states. Hold on, let me make sure I'm drawing from the right place now. Hold on. So basically, it's saying that the United States of America is essentially a government and a corporation. Mm. It says it in an annotated Constitution, and I will. It talks about the corporate powers. It says the United States is a government and so possesses corporate powers and may sue in its corporate name and may by its consent be sued. United States versus Maurice, 2nd Brock 109, Abelman versus Booth, 21 Howe 506, which is, but it breaks down a preamble into 13 different sections.
Wow.
You see?
Yeah. So that text,
right?
So much meaning.
Towards it and for
you just can't get it in one reading.
Right, you can't go half cocked. And that's what a lot of people been doing. They get a bit and piece of information and they run with it.
Exactly.
And that's not what you can do, especially when you're dealing with, we talking about government documents, when you're talking about profit no dry lead, it's not just, this is the end all be all, this particular information. You have to be a scholar practitioner.
That's right.
And we're going to keep mentioning that word and harping on that word.
That's right.
That's essentially that's what we are.
Right. So when you look at the profit over dry lead, profit over dry lead gave a specific needs assessment as well. Getting back to the concept of community. Now I was looking at some statistics, right, from 2014 census, and it said here in Baltimore, we're talking about Baltimore, this is where we are, this is where we're from, this is, home to us.
Right.
We have over 6,000 citizens here. But likewise, when you look at it, the unemployment rate, for example, the last census read that it was 11.8%. 11.8%. That's a high percentage of people facing unemployment. And most of this, when you look at it, you find this information, you can find it on Baltimore City's webpage. It gives you the census information. It gives you the household median income. It gives you how many people have obtained certain degrees, bachelor's, master's, etc. And also those individuals who have either completed high school or GED or have not completed high school and GED.
That's right.
Right. So when you look at these particular situations, right, these issues deal with the economic plight of our people, right? Specifically Moorish Americans, those who may not be cognizant that they're Moorish Americans, because we make up 60% of the demographic here in the city of Baltimore. And I'm talking about Asiatics, right? So when you look at Baltimore City, here in Baltimore City and other cities throughout the country, right, there are many groups. Specifically in Southeast Baltimore, we have a group, and it's an immigrant group. There's a lot of our brothers and sisters who are coming from what has been called South America and also Central America, right? But when you look at the government, now everybody's against the government. Everybody, some individuals want to say, well, we're not for the government, the government corporation. But the government, when you really quite look at it, there are some programs and incentives and things of that nature that can actually assist us if we're doing what's right, right? So, for example, the government has agreed, and you can look it up, has agreed to continuously open the door for our cousins from Central and South America. And when you further investigate this, you'll find that amongst our people, many so-called blacks, what we call Asiatics, even Moorish Americans, etc., we complain about the unemployment rate being alarming in our communities.
Right.
And we have right to complain for the most part. But you'll also find is you'll find individuals who complain about these businesses being established in our community. You'll find those individuals, right, are disorganized. A lot of the individuals who are doing a lot of complaining are disorganized, and the reason they're disorganized is because they're not completing or they're not implementing community-based assessments, right? So when you also look at this, right, these same individuals, find themselves making excuses or excuse themselves by saying that, okay, the government must be subsidizing them. And when you look at that particular word subsidizing, it deals with public housing, it deals with the education, the quality of education our children receive here.
Right.
And it's very lackluster. I'm just putting it out there, and it's not necessarily because of the individuals in it, but it's the infrastructure and the system itself has been, because again, it hasn't been fine-tuned in a while. So as a result of this, you find individuals making, I don't want to necessarily say excuses, but reasons on why they're against the government.
Right.
And then you also find on the flip side, individuals believing that we have to be compensated until we actually do something for ourselves.
Right.
But in all actuality, we need to make a collective attempt to do something for ourselves, right? In order to be successful, in order to be recognized or be able to recognize the economy of life that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali demonstrates in the Holy Quran, the Moorish Science of America, right? But we also have to keep in mind that ultimately we have to obey Allah's command, which is His law.
That's right.
That's right.
So, and something that very important points, and what people don't understand that all this stuff is interconnected.
That's right.
And this is why the Prophet Noble Drew Ali wanted us to stop calling ourselves black.
That's right.
Because the narrative and the paradigm for people who refer to themselves as such, their history starts with the close of the Civil War.
That's right.
Right? And before the Civil War, they have been cut off. I mean, we have
little bits and pieces,
right, and authors, but they still really don't give us
because it's coming from a Eurocentric background.
It's coming from a Eurocentric point of view.
That's right.
So things like the Dred Scott decision, we presented some of that when we was talking about the law of nationality.
That's right.
Well, quite interestingly, in the annotated Constitution dealing with the aspect of the preamble, in Section 2, it deals with, now check this out, it says, because I said I was going to bring these court cases out, right?
Yeah, you did.
It says in Section 2, right, it says Negroes or persons of African descent, whether free or slave, were not designed to be included either in the term we the people or citizens of the United States. So now we very well understand what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali was telling us to stop calling ourselves that.
That's right.
Right? Because when we call ourselves that, then we cut ourselves off from the things that we are supposed to receive. Exactly. And then people from other countries can come in, even though they're related to us,
they reap the
benefits.
That's right.
Because their paradigm is different from what our paradigm would be.
Correct.
So now it will behoove us to change the paradigm, and this is what Prophet Noble Drew Ali did for us.
That's right.
So that we could see what it is that we needed to do and have a place in history where we could make a reference point to.
That's right.
And let the truth be told, a lot of people who go try to look for, the Moors, the Moabites.
Right. Okay.
See, the Prophet is talking a little more deep science, because now we're talking about 10,000 years before Columbus got here.
That's right.
And we're talking about before the Atlantic Ocean was an ocean, it was a river.
That's right.
You see, but this is an ancient paradigm that it's not taught in Eurocentric histories.
No.
It's only taught to those throughout the world, and 9 times out of 10, if they know about it, they are a part of some type of mystical tradition.
That's right.
In their society, so to speak.
That's right.
So I just wanted to bring that point out, and it also brings up the Dred Scott versus Sanford decision.
That's right.
So those court cases that I was, talking about, right? And now we are going to start to get to understand why our people, it seems like we can't get anywhere.
Can't get right.
Because the paradigm that we have,
Right.
so to speak, is been presented to us, and it hasn't been presented in a clear concept. But there is something called the Negro Law of South Carolina.
Okay.
And it says the status of a Negro, his rights and disabilities. Now, when you look this law up, you can see what year it was created in, right? It wasn't any time in 2000.
Yeah,
we talking about that. It's an act of 1740. So this has been on the books since 1740. Right. And slavery didn't end until 1865. So this is still on the books. It says the term Negro is confined to slave Africans, the ancient Berbers, because it's somebody who wrote a paper on I forgot, one of those networks, academia or something like that,
right.
and try to say that we're not connected to the people who refer to them, or people who refer to themselves as being Berbers and their descendants. It does not embrace free inhabitants of Africa, such as the Egyptians. Then it says Moors or the Negro Asiatics, such as liaisers, right? So now we start to see where they started using different terms to try to separate us, but also in the same breath, clump us in together.
Right.
You hear what I'm saying?
Clustering
and also separating at the same time.
That's right.
And you got to take a fine-tooth comb and actually understand, but you have to have the paradigm.
That's right.
To be able to understand what's being said, right? And the paradigm only comes, or connection with the Moorish Science Temple.
Exactly.
Because if you don't, then you go through these records and have your mind all messed up.
That's right.
But then, right?
Okay.
When we call ourselves these names, New York, 1826, right? It says that a Negro works for and is claimed by one as a slave is prima facie evidence that he is a slave. Trongot versus Byers, that's the court case,
right.
which is still on the books till this day,
in New York.
right? In New York,
right?
And when we talking about prima facie, that's a Latin legal term that means first fact. Okay. I might be off ahead, but we look it up and we'll make sure to look it up. And if I'm wrong, I'll stand corrected.
Absolutely.
And give the definition, because if I err, then I will make the correction.
Right.
Okay. Now let's look at North Carolina, 1802.
Okay.
Negroes are presumed to be slaves until the contrary appears. So what is the contrary? If you calling me a Negro, I'm not a Negro.
That's right.
I'm Asiatic.
That's right.
And my race is Asiatic, and my nationality is Moorish American. Right? That's the contrary. And it is apparent, and it is have appeared. But it is not otherwise as to persons of mixed blood.
Right.
Gobu versus Gobu, right? That's a North Carolina court case.
Okay.
Here's another one in 1802, North Carolina. The presumption from the black color of an individual is that he is a slave. Now, this one is a little different. This one is called Gober versus Gober, right? Now 1828. Now this stuff is still on the books.
Right, hasn't been changed, hasn't
been
altered. That's right.
North Carolina. In question of slavery or freedom, a presumption of slavery arises from a black complexion, but none from that of a mulatto. Now they start to play games, right?
That's right.
Scott versus Williams, right? Now, North Carolina, 1853. Okay. The presumption of slavery does not arise from a complexion a shade darker than that of a mulatto. Nicholas versus belt. Okay, so now what happens is we know and understand that the prophet knew that there was some erroneous things that was in law and at law being done to our people.
Absolutely.
And this is why he brought us the information. You know,
that's right.
So like you said, once again, we're not getting down on people, but we just, you know, we shooting from a real good space.
Absolutely.
You know, we not half cocked.
See, and this is what we want you to understand. You know, to some of our viewers and our listening audience, you know, it might sound like, you know, we're giving you the puritanical view, which we are.
Yeah,
we're giving you the puritanical view, but the divine law is necessary. The divine law is definitely necessary in order to live and thrive in an orderly society.
That's right.
So this is why the prophet Noble says in Acts 6 that, you know, we're to claim our nationality and we're to teach our people of our nationality, because we're not Negroes, we're not colored, we're not black, we're not Ethiopian. Because you see what happens with those particular things are placed upon you.
Right.
And you see what the outcome is when those things are placed upon you. But the issue, what we find in our communities and our society, specifically here in the Moorish society, but also abroad, we find that man doesn't want to live by Allah's law.
That's
Allah's
right.
law, Sheikh. We find that Allah's law, you're right, says what? That we shouldn't kill, we shouldn't steal, we shouldn't rob, right? And we should also, above all else, to go to rule, love our neighbor as thyself.
That's right.
And this goes according to what the prophet Noble says, because the prophet Noble says what? Man, know thyself.
That's
so
right.
You got to know yourself, right? You have to become acquainted and familiar with yourself and the God of your understanding, which is not above, not below, you know, which encompasses all different types of elements, but which is within as well. Within. Right. So the golden rule means this, that you have to love yourself first, and then you can love your neighbor.
That's right.
So that's what it means when we talk about charity starting at home. Charity starts at home because guess what? You got to sincerely love yourself, love your neighbor as well. So the question becomes, how do we begin to know thyself and love thyself? Mm-hmm. But you first must develop what? A level of self-esteem. This is the biggest issue you find amongst many of our people, and you find even with us sometimes. You know, we got two selves. We got a higher self and we got a lower self. Right. And we striving here in this community, right? But we also have to develop race pride. And this is what the Prophet Drew Ali demonstrates. We're not talking about race pride in the sense that we hate other people. We're talking about race pride in the sense that we love ourselves, we love our people, and we know who we are. Right. And we're not going to compromise, you know, what has been given to us, right, or has been developed or expounded upon, right? We're not going to compromise that for the sake of just being popular. We're not going to compromise that because it sounds cool and convenient.
Or getting rich off the back of the ignorance of our people.
Exactly. We're not doing that. As Moorish Americans, we were supposed to operate with a level of integrity.
Ethical integrity.
That's right.
And morals.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. That's right.
So, you know, man, like I said, you know, because we love the Moorish Science Temple of America, because we love Allah, first and foremost, we love the Moorish Science Temple of America. We love Prophet Noble Ali, and we love our people.
That's right.
You know, this is why we, you know, are presenting what we're presenting. And like I said, you know, we're going to come back with more information. Right. And, you know, basically, I read a lot of other, like, I wouldn't say it's mainstream, but it's this demonstration called Moguldom, right? Which is like an online journal. And luckily that I read it, because it's talking about these people who they make reference to themselves as, or the government now has labeled them as black extremists.
Wow. Okay.
Right? And basically they're saying that black extremists are more dangerous than Al Qaeda and the Ku Klux Klan.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
And these are the things that this sovereignty and other things, you know, people, like, if you see individuals, and I'm gonna just, you know, put this guy out there, you know, because he, you know, I went through an African rites of passage, and we were taught discipline, right? We weren't setting.
Okay.
The guy, you know, I guess he on YouTube and stuff like that. And, you know, I think he did some things with, you know, Moorish Americans and stuff. That's, I mean, you know, all the cursing and all that. When I went through a rites of passage, the elders didn't have it. No, we had to demonstrate and display right conduct. We had to live by the Nguzu Saba, right?
Okay.
Which are the 7 principles: Umoja, Kuji Chakalia, and a number of other ones, because I'm Nia, Heshema, you know. So I'm very familiar with these particular things, and the elders wasn't having what I see him and various others talking about. They come from a conscious community. No, the elders wasn't having it. You know, we get shut down, and you know, push-ups or whatever. And if push come to shove, we get dealt with.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's, I mean, hey, you know, that's ultimately that's what community is about.
Right.
It's about checks and balances.
Checks and balances.
Checks and balances.
And I'm like seeing this guy. I'm like, he couldn't have been taught or been through any, you know, system of learning, demonstrating the things that he's demonstrating.
Right. And
I personally experienced it at a very young age. I was in a unit that you know, we had first it was Ufa Simba.
Okay.
Right? They were like the little children. Then you had the Ufa Simba. Then you had Ezishwe. Okay. Right? And then after Ezishwe, you had Ukangela. Well, I might have them a little twisted right now. And then after that, I was Boli Kaja, right? Okay. Which was Boli Kaja was before. No, I was Omawumbe, okay, right? Which means warrior. And then when I turned a certain age, then that's when I went to Boli Kaja, which is nation builder. Okay. You understand? And I had to display perfect or almost perfect conduct in order to matriculate through those regiments. Exactly. You see what I'm saying? Absolutely. So some of these guys that's out here, you know, I don't know where they came from. That's right. Because the elders that I came up under, and I'm about 44. Okay. So I know the guy Seti and, you know, all these other individuals, they about my age. Right. And you know, the stuff that the elders taught us, discipline. That's right. You know, so I went off on a rant just now because, you know, when I see this stuff, I'm like, wow, that's not what our people was about.
You brought memory to age. You
know,
about what you had to go through.
Yeah, and it was people from different communities. Correct. You know, it was Christians there were Muslims.
That's right.
You know, I mean, even a few Moorish Americans before I even knew I was a Moorish American.
That's right.
There were 5%ers, and all of us were in the same community. Right. And we had we would do a community circle. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So this is what we need is community. Y'all like to say. Absolutely. You know. That's right. So keep coming back. We don't have an idea. That's right. Maybe we'll go into showing you some of these court cases that has arisen from people talking about committing crimes, claiming that they are Moorish Americans, and making the real things kind of look bad. And you know, and it maybe we'll do that.
Just do it. Yeah.
But just keep tuned, and we'll see where Allah, the spirit of Allah leads us. We hope you enjoyed us today.
That's right.
Keep watching, you know, and hopefully we will have, you know, lots more to come. And we hope that please send in if you have any copies of any old pictures.
That's right.
Of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. That may be film, whatever you may have. We are asking you to make copies of it. If you don't want to submit to us the originals or whatever the case may be, you know, because we need to preserve the culture of Moorish Americans. Absolutely. Because let the truth be told, we have a lot of culture. It's not, it may have not been preserved, or, you know, some unethical people have gotten a hold of it, or went to elders and, you know, just, you know, did certain things that they were not supposed to do. Absolutely. So, you know, we will definitely be good custodians of them. We're not asking for originals, but if you have copies, and we will give you credit for it, you know, honor for it. And we just, you know, we really appreciate you, and, you know, just keep tuning in.
That's right.
And we'll end with the Moorish American prayer.
We also would like to ask you to subscribe to the Moorish American Society, the Moorish Society of Maryland's page. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Moorish American Society of Maryland.
That's right.
And also the Moorish Sense Media YouTube channel, as well as the Facebook pages as well. Mm-hmm. And we thank you all for, you know, listening and viewing as well.
And we can't forget that August the 24th,
That's right.
we're having a back to school, or it's Ancient Forefathers Day,
That's right.
but we feed the community. We give out school supplies, and we'll be there as long as supplies last. So, you know, we're not saying that we have it for the whole world. We do have enough, and when the supplies run out, then unfortunately we are out. But please come out to 1055 Milton Avenue.
That's right.
August the 24th, and we will get there sometime around 12, maybe 1.
Right.
For sure, we'll be there at 12.
That's right.
You know, come on out, fellowship with us. You know, shoot the breeze with us. You know, talk. If you have any questions, please feel free, you know, to ask us questions. So we're going to end at this time with the Moorish American prayer.
Absolutely.
Islam. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
The Father of love.
The Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My guide.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
And by day.
Through his holy prophet.
Through his holy prophet.
Drew Ali.
Drew Ali.
Amen.
Amen. Islam and peace.
Islam and peace.